Hi folks, welcome to your Gersnet immediate post-match reaction pod coming to you in association with Forest Precision Engineering. My name's Alec Anderson and I am speaking to you shortly after, like a big coward, I was sat on the couch in the comfort and warmth and shelter of my home watching on the telly as Rangers won by 4-1 at the Rock at the Dwayne Johnson Stadium, Dumbarton. 4-1. We beat Dumbarton on their own patch in the fourth round of the Scottish Cup, the first round of the Scottish Cup that we've been involved in this season. But yeah, all respect to the fans, the 2,000 or more than 2,000, because there was people all round the ground tonight, proper old school kind of vibe to it. But all respect to all the fans that were there, and a special, more respect than anything else to the players who went out there and ran about in those conditions. 1 p.m. pitch inspection today. Our manager was not fancying this pitch at all. He called it out, the state of it, in his pre-match presser yesterday. But of course, Rangers have contributed to the state of the Dumbarton pitch with our B team having played out of Dumbarton in the Lowland League, which ended, well, Rangers withdrew from the Lowland League at the end of just last season there. So, yeah, it was one of those games where there was so much talk about the pitch, I think, because the biggest injury for Rangers was the biggest worry for Rangers, that there was going to be injuries. Dumbarton in the fourth tier of Scottish football, all respect to them, we're second place in the top tier of Scottish football. It's supposed to be a formality, no-win situation for the players. So it was all about their application, their professionalism, and I think it was top rate tonight. As John Lundstrom himself said in a post-match interview with Connie McLaughlin of Viaplay, because I was in the house and I was watching it in the telly and I was pure warm and dry and all that. He was saying that, well, they hadn't been perfect in their execution, Rangers. They had been perfect in the way they applied themselves to this match tonight. Got the job done, and I was really, by the end of the game, quite chuffed with the way we got that done. We're in the draw for the next round, and that's the most important thing. Or qualifying, as the manager says. Diabolic circumstances, he called them tonight. I thought that was really nice. That's another one to add to the list of beautiful translations by Mr. Clement. Yeah, it was, I don't know, just there was a bit right at the end of this game. It might be because of Viaplay, who've taken on the legacy of Premier Sports and having that kind of psychedelic type coverage where the screen just suddenly goes kind of purple and it starts looking like the title sequence of Doctor Who from the late 70s, or the Bohemian Rhapsody video, like Top of the Pops kind of early efforts to make things a bit psychedelic. At one point I thought I saw an elephant. I thought I saw an elephant by the side of the park. It really was that crazy. And the rain's obviously lashing the cameras that are out in that exposed, they're out in temporary rigging, they can expose the three sides of the pitch that aren't under the stand roof. So they kept having to change the picture. Obviously, the one camera was getting wiped where they cut to another camera, and then it would go back to so the other camera could get wiped. There's rain constantly hitting it, but at one point it looked very much to me, it was actually in the second half when I saw there was a kind of close-up of the Dumbarton goalie taking a goal kick, and it looked like the pitch went up towards the corner flag, went up the way, like creating a bowl, which with everything else going on, I think that the actual size of the rock that the stadium is nicknamed for, Dumbarton Rock, which I think is the oldest fort in the history of the British Isles. It's always been fortified because this natural volcanic plug of basalt, apparently it is, that just rises out of the ground. Stuart Weir of Gersnet fame was comparing it to Tracy Island. Called it a Poundland Thunderbirds today, but that must throw some shade. I mean, slagging it must throw shade onto the pitch a lot of the time, so any wet doesn't get a chance to dry out. But it's been teeming it down pretty much all day after the ice we've had this week and the snow we had yesterday. Add to that, we had the wind and the rain today, even as the temperature dropped. It's in the confluence of two rivers. It's just going to be damp. So I was at pitch inspection at 1 p.m. today, but it did pass that. But is it a bowl as well? As much as all that? Maybe it's just an optical illusion, as I say. Maybe it's my eyesight. But you need to get like a panel beater in there, get them tunnelled under the ground, maybe go into the tunnel and then go down and go under the centre circle and just kind of batter it back up, just flip it up so you've got that camber that you're supposed to have in a proper pitch. It was only 2,000, it's quite a really modern stadium. See, maybe it's an optical illusion, but that wouldn't be helping their problems with the pitch there. But yeah, it was all about avoiding injuries and avoiding a massive cup upset, and we definitely did that. Old school kind of atmosphere with the fans hanging over the fence, not very jumpers for goalposts, keeping themselves warm with the flares that they were setting off. Plenty of room there for people who had actually got a ticket for the ground to gather round the ground and kind of get themselves up over the fence and have a wee look in. Yeah, that was really nice. And completing the old school feel was Stephen Craigan on co-coms. Some man, Stephen Craigan. That was a blast from the past. And yeah, it's just really weird for me. There's so much happens. There's so much, because the history of Rangers and Dumbarton sharing that first league title in 1891, then playing each other in the Scottish Cup final of 1897, and here we were again playing each other in the Scottish Cup. We beat them 5-1 in the 1897 Scottish Cup final, and then we beat them 5-1 at Boghead, their previous ground, which they were at for about 130 years. We beat them 5-1 there in our last visit there in the old Championship. The Championship was the top tier before the formation of the Premier Division in 1975. And yeah, I think they beat us 5-1 at Boghead in the first meeting in 1890-91 when they won the league, or we shared the league that season. We shared the league title, and Dumbarton won the league title outright in their own right the following season, 1892. So the first two in a row of Scottish football. I think all through that 1891-92 season they were singing two in a row, one to go, taunting us as we fell away from that one. But it was really good to watch. But things like all the kind of links between the clubs, both formed in 1872, and as were Renton and Vale of Leven, both formed in 1872. The other clubs, famous Scottish Cup teams, now no longer in existence from that part of the world. Although Vale of Leven, there's a juniors version of them there. And things like when Rangers are winning the game, I think it's maybe 3-1. And when it goes to 4-1, it's Scott Wright who scores. I've already had James Tavernier scoring. And the two of them scored against Hearts in the League Cup semi-final. So that was, this has happened before this season. Scott Wright doesn't score a lot of goals for us, doesn't get a lot of game time for us, but he scored the winner in the Scottish Cup final in 2022. Then the next cup that we won, it was James Tavernier that scored the winner in that one as well, when we won the League Cup there a few weeks back. And you've got James Tavernier and Cyril Dessers scoring. Now, Cyril Dessers Tavernier was the top scorer of the 2021-2022 Europa League, and Dessers was the top scorer of the 21-22 Conference League. And the reason Rangers are no longer in playing out of Dumbarton in the Lowland League is because we wanted to have a conference league, a conference division, a fifth tier of Scottish football set up, and it wasn't. And there's talk about Karim Benzema being up for sale just now, or a loan period during this transfer window, and he's a top scorer in the 2021-2022 Champions League. So if we got him in, that'd be a bit mind-bending. But the thing that finished it off for me was when Dumbarton brought on a David Wilson at the end of the game. Davy Wilson, iconic Rangers player who won the Scottish Cup with us like 5 times and scored in 2 different winning Scottish Cup finals. He won everything with Davy Wilson. But he finished his playing career at Dumbarton and was assistant manager at Dumbarton, then became manager at Dumbarton. He was manager of Dumbarton in 1984 when I first saw Dumbarton playing, when they were back in the Premier Division. They first got into the Premier Division, 84-85 season, and I went to see Rangers playing them the 2 times we played them at Boghead. It's absolutely kind of mind-bending. Did you see The Godfather during the Christmas period? The Godfather was on film 4, and I noticed for the first time, the bit with the oranges. I'll talk about that later. But the main thing tonight was there was only a few changes to what you would expect to be our first 11, our starting 11. The only major recognisable allowance to the fact that we're playing a 4th tier team and we're expected to go through in this game was probably Robbie McCrory being back in nets. John Souttar. I think Leon Balogun is our other starting centre half. He's the chosen partner for Connor Goldson at this point in time. So Balogun being on the bench, John Souttar starting, that's maybe another a change that wouldn't have happened if we'd been playing a league game, for example. You've also got maybe Nico Raskin. He's on his way back from long-term injury still. I don't know if he would have got a shout to sit alongside John Lundstrom, although we don't really have a lot of options in that position. Kieran Dow injured, Dujon Sterling injured as well, apparently. So I think it's pretty much, especially with Abdallah Sima being away, AFCON and Rabbi Matondo coming in to take his place on the left-hand side. That's a really strong team tonight, apart from, as I say, the goalkeeper, who amongst the many things I got wrong in the Gersnet preview pod last night, I forgot to mention, I was talking about my favourite two performers this season so far have been Sima and Tavernier. Completely forgot to mention the fact that Jack Butland's been he's been our rock, all puns intended, but he was dropped tonight to the bench. Jack Butland didn't get a look in. I don't know if it's because maybe Robbie McCrory and John Souttar had that little bit of a wreck, a bit of a car crash between them for the second goal. I think it was we conceded to Copenhagen in that friendly on Tuesday night. The manager says no, he doesn't just put players out for the sake of putting them out, but that might be a wee confidence booster for them. Give us a start next game. Don't be worrying about that mistake you made in that friendly, because we need all the bodies we can get just now. And we applied ourselves. We went for it. I think the first 20 minutes we created a really clear-cut chance. First 20-25 minutes we created a really clear-cut chance on average once every 5 minutes. Rabbi Matondo missed one of them, and Cyril Dessers missed the rest of them, or failed to get on the end of them, or put one of them way over the bar. And the two sets of goals, and they got the spare goals, and because there's no stand or anything like that, because it's got a small stadium, obviously, a small venue, it always does my nut in anyway when they have that thing with the spare goals that they use for practice sessions before kick-off, when the players are warming up, are left behind the actual goals, and just exposed that Dessers couldn't score into either set of goals at that end in the first half, and it was starting to get really frustrating. But funny enough, Stephen Craigan, who was enjoying the fact that Rangers have got so many players running down their contracts this season, was also sticking up for Dessers for his movement, for the fact that he was always making space, and he's great at everything except a lot of the times finishing. And we ultimately relied on, I think it was a kind of instant La Manga dividend, where the first goal, this looked a clearly worked move, I think confirmed by the players, afterwards confirmed by John Lundstrom, who scored it after maybe 35 minutes, when Todd Cantwell took the corner, and Big Souttar bombs to the front post area, kind of front of the 6-yard box, and nods it back the way, looping back towards the back post, and in comes John Lundstrom, our makeshift centre half at times, so he certainly knows how to get the end of a high ball. Maybe that goal he scored against Motherwell at Fir Park, wasn't that last season? And that kind of bland 2-1 win lit up by the Tillman solo goal. But this Lundstrom in at the back post, 1-0, and the worries that were starting to build up were suddenly allayed. It was just before that, maybe 25 minutes or so, that there's a guy called Ruth playing for them, Dumbarton. But Dumbarton hadn't been creating any chances at all. But the very moment they did, and this fella Ruth, very biblical name, I think it's between Judges and Samuel, I think, in the Old Testament, Rangers supporter. And Ruth seemed to get himself between Goldson and Souttar, and got a touch point blank range, but Bobby McCrory was out there. People are saying it come off his face or whatever, but I don't really know what part of his body it came off, but he spread himself and made a point blank crucial save. Goes out for a corner. Shortly after that, Robbie McCrory, before we took the lead, after he'd made that great save, Robbie McCrory rolled the ball out to Connor Golson, which was overly it was over long, and Dumbarton were back in again, but we dealt with it. And it's just that thing, you're watching it as a Rangers supporter, you're thinking, oh my God, we're starting to fall to pieces here. We couldn't score any chances through Dessers. It's now going to be the biggest cup upset of the century. But if you've been, if you're watching Rangers against, for example, Real Madrid or whatever in Europe, and we've been defending like hell really successfully, you get that kind of black superstition where that, the one time we do actually create a chance, that's just the moment that they're going to break on us and score. And that's pretty much what we did. We got the corner to go 1-0 up straight after Robbie McCrory kind of threw that ball out carelessly. That was a couple of minutes later, and I think it would be 40 minutes that we get the second goal, and it's Tav, the top scorer on the 2021-2022 Conference League, putting the ball over to really putting it right in the edge of the 6-yard box. A beautiful ball, probably aiming for the head of Cyril Dessers, but Dessers goes in, and it's a side-footed finish. He just rolls it into the net. Really a beautiful finish, all about his positioning, all about the ball from Tav, and that was it. Kind of relaxed, 2-0 up at the break. We come back out second half. Dumbarton have a go straight away, seconds into straight from kick-off. They have a go in the second half, and we break on them straight away. Rabbi Matondo almost scoring a solo goal from the kind of halfway line, and it's the same kind of pattern. We're pinning them back without really getting anywhere, but we start making substitutions. What was it? When about the 70th minute, Fabio had come on for Dessers, but before that, just before the hour, we made 3 subs. Ryan Jack come on for Raskin, giving Raskin a bit of a rest. Ryan Jack obviously want to get a few games now so he can play for Turkey at the Euros. Tom Lawrence, good to see him back. He come on for Todd Cantwell, and Borna Barisic coming on for Vidvan. All kind of straight swaps, really. And what was the next goal? Oh, it was the penalty, wasn't it? And it was John Lundstrom, I think, took the ball midfield, kind of threw the ball in, a lovely ball into Rabbi Matondo, who held it up, stood up the defender in front of him, takes him to the cleaners. He's going to hit the byline, and the defender goes in there, and there's contact. He definitely puts his hand on him. Can't really see what's going on with the feet. No VAR, and of course the cameras are all covered in rain and what have you. And that's fantastic for the Masonic conspiracy, because a lot of the pundits, Michael Stewart was involved, thinking it was a really soft penalty. He couldn't really see what it was all about. The referee was right on the spot, but of course he's in the Masonic conspiracy, so he's obviously going to give it. Penalty to Rangers was the main thing. Tav steps up, it puts that away. It's 3-0, and everything seems absolutely fine. And Dumbarton just like, nah. They had the kids, they had their kids with them, bring them out onto the park at the beginning of the game. I think it was their own kids that were the mascots. So it's a big deal for Dumbarton, the Dumbarton players, quite rightly too. They whip the ball. Borna fouls somebody on our left flank. Dumbarton whip the ball in. Our defence is all behind the ball, all at sea. But a lovely header, it has to be said. I can't remember the fella's name, that's so disrespectful. He looked a bit like Nathan Patterson in the patch, just physically, just in passing, looking at him. But he gets a lovely touch on a lovely header, and it goes to the far side of the net. Dumbarton have got a goal back, 3-1. Couple of minutes to go, just a bit of respectability, surely. But just in case there was any worries, Rangers just kept pounding them after that, just pounded them until we got that 4th goal, which was, I think, it was good work by. Good work by who? Was it Rabbi Matondo still in the park at that point? I don't think so. Fabio? I can't remember. Somebody plays the ball, and anyway, was it Ross McCausland? Aye, remember Ross McCausland? Whips the ball into the one and only Scott Wright. I think we'd had the ball cleared off the line, a shot by Tom Lawrence, and shortly after this, it was Scott Wright. The ball comes back out to, and he fires it in under the goalkeeper, and it's fantastic. That's 4-1, job done. Nice professional scoreline. The last time we started off the Scottish Cup in the season, this particular round towards the end of January with 4 goals, was the season before last, and we went on to win the thing under Gio, and it's quite a nice way to step back into the season, step back into competitive football. It's also a nice way to step back into reality after the festive period, the holidays. It's it's like I like to read the M.R. James ghost stories. There's always an M.R. James ghost story, usually on television as well. A total Victorian, kind of into early Edwardian period. And Christmas is very Victorian, isn't it? A lot of Victorian traditions. And you've got all the Dickens, A Christmas Carol, that kind of thing as well. I went to see them up at Christmas Carol at the Views. So you got to reality. You got a bit of Michael Caine into you, or it's just no Christmas at all. And it's very Victorian, and it was like there's a kind of like Christmas present as well for both clubs. Rangers get a relatively easy tie to get themselves back into competitive football before we go to Easter Road, for example, on Wednesday night, and Dumbarton get the money, for a big draw for them, and they get the money as well. But the whole Victorian thing just doesn't stop for me when it comes to this game. It's really quite unbelievable when you think that whole period, that whole area. You get the Rangers badge, the Rangers crest, for example. I know we're wearing my kind of second summer of love psychedelic type the Aldershot town kit tonight, but our crest is so Victorian. The scroll crest that we've got, the RFC, the kind of spindly 3 letters all intermingled with each other, and they've got these little kind of bits at the end, and the little feet, or little claws. They're quite kind of scary, and almost, well, for me anyway, kind of erotic as well. A bit like an Aubrey Beardsley type drawing, a very famous Victorian illustrator. He did stuff for Oscar Wilde books and that kind of thing, with women with very few clothes on, all very salacious. And he was born in 1872. And the C and the RFC kind of gathers round between the big F and the big R like a It's got a little kind of clamp almost round the 2 letters. It's got a little hinge, a little kind of bracket in the middle of it, the sea, and it reminds me of the legs and the tripods that come out the spaceships in the H.G. Wells War of the Worlds book, which he completed writing in 1897, which was the year that Rangers beat Dumbarton 5-1 in the Scottish Cup final. And Dumbarton's crest is really Victorian as well, and it's an elephant in a castle, because Dumbarton Rock's supposed to look like an elephant. The elephant and castle, and that's where is it Judith Shakespeare's sister? Not just my favourite Smith song of all time, which they opened with when I saw them at the Magnum Arena in 1985. Not just the name of a breakaway from Bananarama band who named themselves after the Smith song. It's originally named after a section of the Virginia Woolf essay, A Room of One's Own, the bit all about Shakespeare's sister. She's buried under the Elephant and Castle where the omnibuses stop. That's the whole thing. And Virginia Woolf, born in, was it 1882? I think she was born right in the middle of that Victorian period, where they had the likes of the Scottish Cup itself, started in 1873, kind of coming after the first FA Cup final down south, 1872, the same year as Rangers were formed, the same year as Dumbarton were formed, the same year as Vale of Leven were formed, the same year as Renton were formed. All these powerhouse clubs they were round about. You take that left down towards Helensburgh on your way to Dumbarton if you're coming from Glasgow, go round by Helensburgh and you get to the towns, the villages, the places where the founding fathers, the gallant pioneers of Rangers themselves were born, where Rangers were effectively born. So it's amazingly rich in history and the power of football in that part of the world. And I can't get my head away from it. It's a really confusing thing. I look at all the first Scottish Cups. I used to study them when I was a kid to try and memorise them. I never could, because it was too confusing, because you'd Renton, you'd Vale of Leven, and you had Dumbarton, and I think they all played each other in the Scottish Cup final, or certainly the three kind of played each other anyway. Vale of Leven always took everybody to a replay, didn't they? They took us to a replay. The first Scottish Cup final we ever played in 1877, we refused to go to the replay in 1879. Renton played the second Scottish Cup final against Queen's Park. Vale of Leven won it 3 times in a row after Queen's Park won the first 3 Scottish Cups. Vale of Leven won the next 3 Scottish Cups. Dumbarton's only Scottish Cup win came against Vale of Leven after a replay. Vale of Leven also lost 3 Scottish Cup finals on the trot, and it was against Queen's Park. Queen's Park formed in the 1860s, part of the gentleman amateur ideal. I know they went professional just a few years ago, but back then, and as we all know, if you grew up watching Scottish football, Queen's Park maintained their amateur status throughout, but started by gentlemen amateurs, i.e. rich folk, folk with a lot of money, certainly after that ethos, and then in came the clatty working classes, folk like myself, who are just like, no, if we're good at something, we're not going to do it for free. We need the money, basically. And the factories and all that started, Dumbarton, the Vale, Alexandria, all these places. You got the football teams, professional football teams, starting up there, and they became the best teams in the world. It was the home of the powerhouse of world football. They go down to England, they play the FA Cup winners or the League Champions of England, and usually beat them home and away. And to Scotland, the clubs, when Scottish clubs were effectively champions of the world, it's when they were coming from that area of the world. And I just find it really intoxicating when Rangers go and play in these places, especially when there's been so much focus on our history of late. And it's just like, Vale of Leven, Uber Alice, Vale of Leven, Uber Alice, Uber Alice, Vale of Leven, won more Scottish Cups than Trevor, Stephen. Now it's 1984. I'm at Boghead watching Ted McMinn score from a corner of Victorian grass where some estate agent probably now wipes his ass. It became a private housing estate. The Sons of the Rock were forced to vacate their home of 130 years, a terrace bowl teeming with middle-class fears, evicted into a single stand. But Dumbarton's new home wasn't out of town bland. Shadow of the castle at the roof of the rock, and the shore of 2 rivers once used as a dock by the Picts, the Vikings, the Queen of Scots. Strathclyde's ancient power dominates your thoughts. By the Vale of Leven, Uber Alice, Willie Collum is the new Hugh Dallas. I mean, the whole thing I was thinking is, I went to the first game ever played at Dumbarton's new stadium after having been to see him. I was playing a couple of times at Boghead in the 80s. I was at one of the last games I ever played at Boghead as well, just to pay tribute to a fantastic ground. And I would one of the things that really struck me is how handy it is from Dumbarton East Station, but when you come out Dumbarton East Station, head towards Castle Road, it is straight away you're hitting tenements. No, straight away it feels very kind of stereotype Scottish working class stadium. And you walk down Castle Road, and I think the first few buildings there are certainly, I would say, pre-Second World War, kind of old style buildings, all quite old. And now you saw it tonight when you're looking behind the goal on your left hand side, watching it on the telly. There's all these kind of postmodernistic dead tech bullshit houses, flats and new houses down there. But when Dumbarton first moved in here in 2000, that's not what it was like when you went down there. There was the remnants of old factories, warehouses. I don't know what they were, but they were kind of almost Victorian, certainly I would say 1930s at the latest, these buildings. And somehow with them moving to a brand new location, with it being at the foot of the rock, in the history of Dumbarton Castle and all that, they seem to have moved somewhere even older and even more resplendent, the stereotypes of, what working class football was all about. But they get knocked down eventually, and the new buildings were made down there, and all the buildings round about the dock area, just next to the castle, they all get flattened. It's a lovely redeveloped area down there now. It's all very pretty. But I just see, if I was a billionaire, see if I had sold a lot of bras, or sold dodgy tax relief to people, and I could buy a yacht and all that, I would invest in Rangers eventually. But first thing I'd do is I'd go around Scotland and I would put terracing or stands into all the spaces. At Falkirk, I've got one side of the ground missing, the Falkirk Stadium. I know it's because of the blast zone for Grangemouth, or that's the legend anyway. But I would just have one side that's safe standing, with a roof on it, like a coo shed, just to complete the stadium. Like get the two sides of Hamilton Accies, New Douglas Park finished off, and the same. Where else? We've got East Fife. They've just got the one stand that's very like Dumbarton ground. East Fife, New Bayview. I would get that. Get it finished off, get structures on the other three sides. And tonight's, I would just... Boghead had it was lovely terracing. One end was particularly big terrace. They had the old roof. It was a roof famously from Turnberry Station they'd bought in the 50s, was at the other end at Boghead. It's a cracking, really brilliantly atmospheric ground, which was in a very middle class area. It's now a housing estate in there, obviously. Lots of bungalows, kind of sandstone bungalows round about there. But it seemed that Dumbarton somehow managed to beat the trend of you'd go to an out-of-town stadium, and it was really kind of sterile, and supporters treated as an inconvenience. They've moved to the most iconic part of Dumbarton, and it's much older, and it used to be all warehouses and that, and docks, and it was just a shipyard, or a kind of mini wee shipyard. It was lovely. It really was. It really was. I don't want to sound like too kind of patronising and fetishising the working class ethic. I don't want to sound like one of the folk I heard over Christmas talking about curry as a lifestyle. My gran used to tell me to come and curry in. This was a night for currying in. I was currying in the couch. My mum used to say, curry in, son. And my gran would say, come on, curry in to me, son. I was in my 40s at the time, so it was a bit weird. But I thought it was great the way that Dumbarton managed to get themselves in an even more iconic traditional location with their brand new ground. But I would definitely go and finish it off with just a sweep of terracing that was the same as what they had at Dumbarton, or better than what they had at Boghead, maybe a bit more like Old Bayview. Just get terracing in there around three sides, because that tonight with the fans hanging over the fences, and the interest is there. Folk want to go to these games, and that's something I would do anyway, because it's a real shame you see a ground that's not finished off. But Rangers did finish off Dumbarton tonight, and I really enjoyed it. And the manager went straight on to sorry, hang up, my phone's going here. Hello, hi, how you doing, mate? Yeah, Derek, how's it going? There's news. Just read it out to me. Just read out the Rangers statement. I'm on Gersnet just now. I'm on live. I'll just read it out to the punters. You read it out to me. Rangers are delighted to announce the signing of the birthday cards. They're going to sign the birthday cards that they send out to season ticket holders. Because it's just an electronic message just now, isn't it? It's like printed. So sign that. That'd be nice. Hang on a second. My other phone's gone. Just give me a wee second. Sorry. Cheers. How you doing? Chris. How's it going, mate? I'm actually on Gersnet just now. Just read it out. That's good. The punters would, they'd love to hear it. And Rangers are delighted to announce the transfer of funds to the electrician for the track lighting. They're going to put in They're going to put in the sports bar between the Copeland and the Govan. That's fine, mate. Aye, the track light. He didn't need the track lighting. Aye, because around the Puggies, the guy was wanting. He didn't have the money for that. He wanted to fork out for the materials. Aye, so they've got the money for that because you want. Aye, a wee nudge and all that. You want to have the money for the track lighting around there, so you can see you get 3 bars up there. Okay, that's cool, mate. Actually, can you hang on? Sorry, I've got my other phone's gone here, mate. I'll just give me a second. Hello, how you doing, Johnny? Aye, so what? I know I'm actually on Gersnet just now. What we do? Rangers are delighted to announce. What is it? The arrival. Rangers are delighted to announce the arrival at the front door of the main stand. He's on Edmonton's Drive just now. How's the window cleaner? Aye, the window. That's for the windows. Aye, because they're big windows, mate. Aye, it's got a bit manky. You're right. No, it's got manky during the weather these days. Now the pies and that inside are going to make them manky inside. Aye, so he's got the three poles inside each other. The new thing they do, so it's a lot safer for the window cleaner. That'll be good. Aye, the place will be looking spick and span for when Livingston come here in February. Anyway, if you just want to hang on a sec, aye, that's fine. Aye, Rangers have been delighted to announce a lot of things lately, and I'm delighted. To hear that Rangers have announced that Neil McCann and Jorg Alberts are going to be having a wee night with everybody. 2nd of May 1999, arguably my favourite league game of all time. So yeah, it's fantastic to know. But I know a lot of you have been pretty upset with the lack of transfer activity and Lawrence Shankland not playing for Hearts today. He's ill. Hopefully he's ill, curled up in his bed, currying into his bed. Just saying he's ill with his love for Rangers and his desire to go for Rangers. That was a kind of East Coast version of what we were doing tonight for Hearts today. Spartans are a point and a place above Dumbarton in League Two. Got a pitch that's funny for different reasons, and along go the Jambos there, but they struggled without Lawrence Shankland because he's a goal scorer. I don't know whether my love for Lawrence, or my obsession growing for Lawrence Shankland to come to Rangers is just because I want us to sign anybody. I feel like it's like Nacho Novo. I remember when Nacho Novo signed for us, Dundee are probably more of a threat to the old firm at that time than Hearts are now. They're probably better then, but I just kind of, it lit up my life, and Nacho Novo went to light up Rangers. He was absolutely fantastic. I feel it was just a bit of an old school Scottish signing from another club. Could be just exactly what we're needing, but we don't know. Maybe they're going to want too much money or whatever. But what I'm speaking about more generally is the fact that the manager, probably the biggest thing he said tonight, came right at the end of his interview with Connie McLaughlin, where he just slipped in the fact that Rangers are working really busily on signings just now, trying to get people in. And he said maybe a couple. I wrote it down somewhere. Was it a few transfers in the next couple of days or weeks? He said, and he said they were working really hard on stuff. Yesterday he made it really clear. I thought it was a really interesting press conference. The boys will talk about this on the Sunday night pod for you later on. But he talked about there wasn't anything political going on with the board. Everybody was aligned, while also slagging off the fact that so many players were coming at the end of their contract. And he's already, through the course of these 3 months at the club, pointed out the fact that or had hinted heavily at the fact he doesn't understand the fitness of the players, how bad the fitness, the injury situation. He's having a go at Michael Beale. I think he's also having a bit of a go at Ross Wilson, which our chairman came in April to take over as chairman. And our CEO became our CEO, our current CEO only came, so was it June, was it this year? So kind of, although these people have been at the club longer, I think he will be aligned with them while he's kind of putting the boot into past regimes, if you like, or people in charge of our recruitment. I don't know how much money we've got. That's a big factor that Michael Beale was allowed to splurge during the summer, and we were happy for him to do so. I remember going to announce this. I was going to confirm Lammers. We said it. We have to admit, we did say all this stuff. So, I would like to see us get a few players in. I don't think we're going to get in the number of players that we probably need. I was discussing with Brian last night in the preview pod. We need 3 or 4 anyway, I would say, to give us a real chance of winning the league this season. But I think the manager, it was really interesting tonight that he confirmed the club are working hard on it. And that's more than he's really said before. He's always quite keen to say, I'm not going to confirm anything until a signing is actually signed. And he says it's not about finding not about the number of players you sign, it's about getting the right players for the positions, players that actually want to come to Rangers as well. So that was really interesting. I think maybe for some people more interesting than the game itself. But I thought us beating Dumbarton in the Scottish Cup was super interesting and very enjoyable, especially considering the conditions. And you'll get a much better and more sane, less zany, what am I like, what a character, analysis of all this tomorrow night on the Sunday night preview pod, 9:30 live on our YouTube channel. And I think it's Craig Ray is going to be hosting. I think he's going to have Ross Bennett, and my old mucker Colin Armstrong. They're all my old muckers, they're great guys, and it's going to be an absolutely fantastic pod. So get on that, folks, and thanks for your time.